Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad.
Well, welcome home, family.
Welcome.
It's your mom and dad.
Good
Hello.
morning, good morning.
Hello. Listen, if you are watching on the YouTube, then you can very clearly see that I am in a pajama. I'm in a full matching pajama. Now, listen.
Yeah.
Okay? Here's the fact of the matter.
Oh.
We are not redoing the Fantasy Suite episode.
No.
What happened is that during the Fantasy Suite episode, Evan made some grand statement that no one wears pajamas. Evan said no one wears pajamas, probably just because you don't wear pajamas. You wear boxers to bed, and I wear dentist sweatshirts that I get for free because I have to go to the dentist so much these days. But you said no one wears pajamas. Well, I will let you know.
The amount of DMs I got, the amount of
received.
messages being like, you are an idiot. I wear pajamas. I wear pajamas. I wear pajamas. We all wear pajamas. And like, you're the weirdo. I was like, oh my God.
Received so many messages. It was, we all wear pajamas and
I apologize.
are on the outside. So what I did after receiving so many messages, honestly, people really encouraging me, the family really encouraging me to try out the pajama game.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been gone the past couple days.
Yeah.
And while you were gone, I bought myself a pair of pajamas.
Yeah.
And let me make something very clear to you and to everyone else out there. I don't feel very great today. Full transparency. I'm having what they might call a very aggressive period. A menstruation monsoon of sorts.
Oh my God. An M&M?
M&M. So I don't feel top notch. But in these pajamas, I feel like $1 million.
Wow.
I am a pajama person now. In fact, I don't call them pajamas. I call them pajamas. Because what I've realized is we've been missing out on like a very fancy part of life. Like I feel so chic walking around in pajamas.
Yeah.
It adds a level of
royalty, kind of. It kind of has a royal vibe. Like we change for different sections of our day.
I was more talking about like a nice transition into the evening. It feels very much like now, after I draw my 11th bath of the day for my cold bones, that on the 11th hour bath, instead of getting back into my sweatpants for the 17th time,
which are arguably pajamas,
I get into a full matching set, a chic set of pajamas, and I feel fantastic.
Well, they're like very uniform. Like it's a uniformed look.
I mean,
They look beautiful.
like uniform, if you want to call. I mean, like look.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in now. Well, here's the thing, everyone. Every single person that listens to the podcast who DM'd me and said, which is everyone.
Yeah.
Said I wear pajamas.
We are pajama
It made it
wearers.
clear that me and you are maybe rarer.
I mean,
And
I think, you know what? I think we're a little more disastrous. I think I've realized this about us. I think we live in a little more like hectic tornado energy. Like we're a little chaotic. Like the house is a little chaotic. Our energy is a little chaotic.
Okay.
We don't have like, we wake up and do this and then we do this. It's always just
one
wild.
thing we're bad at is like tradition, not tradition, but what do you call it? Like when you routine.
Yeah.
We're not the most routine. We don't even know the word. We're like, I don't know, it's like a tradition,
But that's what I'm
like
saying.
in an old church.
We're a little
what
chaotic
they do.
energy.
It's a little like every day's different. We don't
Versus
really like
a lot of people like they have the routine, and then part of the routine is putting on the pajama. And I'm telling you, there is something to this routine thing. It's helping me emotionally.
We're like 10 years behind every like Instagram motivational video. It's like, get up for ice bath. We're like, pajamas?
It feels great.
You know what? I've been touching you this morning.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the pajamas on, and I am a big fan. They're very soft.
I feel
very
fantastic.
vibey. You know what I mean? You look great in them.
Thank you. This is
so
just
I'm kind of in now. I get it now. and I love it.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to formally apologize on Evan's behalf and mine to the pajama community, and you've won me over.
They're stunning. I'm a huge fan, and you know what? I apologize to Evan. This is my just apology video. I apologize for saying that pajamas are kind of weird and that no one wears them. I was very wrong. They're absolutely stunning. I bet you guys are all so comfortable. And I apologize for projecting my my bedtime chaos into your life when you probably have this amazing routine.
A gorgeous routine at the end of the day.
You slow down, you have a little bit of tea, you do your face thing, your face routine. That's the word again. Yeah. And then you light the candles and you wind down into bed. That's what I picture you all doing now, and I'm going to start doing it.
Good. I'm glad that you've made your apologies. Thank you very much. Because I'm now part of the pajama people. So today we are obviously here to discuss the finale of The Golden Bachelor, the historic finale of The Golden Bachelor. And I have many thoughts.
Me too.
And I'm actually very excited to talk to you because you and I watched it in 2 different locations.
Yes.
You were out of town.
Yes.
And so we have not discussed our thoughts at all. So I'm going to be hearing your thoughts for the first time.
Yes.
So we're going to get into that in just a moment here. But I have to tell everybody something because this morning I ran into the studio to share something with you. And halfway on my run in, I realized that I had made a mistake. But Gary has really very much been on my mind, obviously, the past couple days. And Gary's also been in the news quite a bit the last couple days, which we'll get into in a little bit briefly. But because of that, I had my iPad that I keep my notes on, and I look down and Apple News pops up and it's a small tagline. And because my mind is on Gary, I look down and I swear it's like a Gary from a few years ago, like a little bit of a younger Gary with his arm around who looks like his daughter. And then the title is, on his deathbed, her father told her a secret. He'd spent his life as a fugitive for robbing a bank. Okay, so I looked down this morning at my Apple News. I think it's an older photo of Gary and his daughter. And I'm like, I start running into the studio. I'm like, first of all, oh my God.
Dude, that would have been the story.
Well, first of all, it says like on his deathbed. So I'm like, oh my God, what happened?
Shit,
like, and I was panicking. I'm like, oh my God, Gary.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what in the past few days, what's happened? And then I'm like, oh my God, Gary was a bank robber and he's a fugitive. And I was like, had a full spiral moment in like 10 seconds running in to tell you, and then halfway in to tell you, I was like, oh, it's not Gary.
Right.
But that's where my mind's been.
You know what I love about like bank robbery is it's just such a like, it just seems fake.
I know. It doesn't feel real at all.
Like it just sounds like a movie or a video game. So just reading that, like have you ever met anyone who's like, yeah, I was robbing banks? You're like, in the 1700s.
Yeah, it feels very like train robber.
That's what I mean. It just seems like, give me a horse, kid. So like the fact that this guy is like it just, that would have been the headline of all time.
And also it's like, I only go between like, it's either a train robber or it's like the town. So I just was like, I just think about Gary as a bank robber for a second. And I was just like, oh my God, because it's like a bank robber.
I love this idea that like
a fugitive.
Like it's like he's been, there's always movies where the guy was like a CIA agent or an operative or something.
Yeah. And then
he leaves the life, but now he's a dad.
Yeah, he's like stay-at-home dad.
And then all of a
vibes.
sudden the guy finds him and he's having to like defend himself. But like while the kids are like, what's going on? And he's like, nothing, just grabbing groceries. Right? Like that's what I figure, but like he turns into an actual bank robber. So the whole Gary we know is an act. So he's like, this is just a darling time. I just love to just be in love. Like that's all fake. And then we're like, are you a bank robber? And he's just like, what did you just say to me? And he like puts the hat on and he's like,
the hat on?
Like a hat. And he's like, I don't like that tone on you. And all of a sudden it's like, dude, that's the real Gary we get. I love the idea that Gary's putting on this like, hi. Hi. Like he's been working on an accent this whole time, but he's actually this badass bank robber.
Which is not the case, everybody.
Which is not the case. Everyone's chill.
It was just,
but his tone, everybody's like, darling.
Mixed up an Apple News headline.
Oh my
God.
That
gave me quite a thrill this morning, and I thought I would share with everybody.
It's like a real thrill and a letdown. It's like a dream you have that you're like, mine was always when I was a little kid that I was able to buy anything I wanted. Like, I was young. I was like, whenever I was 10 years old, I have a dream. Like I could buy the surfboard and I bought the skateboard and I bought the this and the that. And then I wake up and all that shit wasn't there.
Oh, so
that's like finding out, Gary's not a bank robber.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that was, I was like hoping for that he was a bank robber. But it did confuse and add quite a query to me in the morning.
Now I'm sad that he's not a bank robber, not because of the crime element, but just because of like what a mystery that would be.
Can you imagine?
What a mystery!
It's like all of a sudden we find out that one of our bachelors,
and then we can't find Gary.
All of a sudden,
because he's on a boat on his way to.
All of a sudden, Gary and Teresa have left, and they are now robbing banks.
They're like what do you call them?
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
He's like, that's why I love her. She had that look in her eyes. She's been to the other side.
So sorry. Any rumors? Okay. I'm not sure what that music is. But
that was kind of like a Western vibe.
It's time for the train robberies. Okay.
This horse is out.
We're not
of
starting
town.
any rumors. It's just a mistake.
Okay.
Anywho, so let's get into this officially. It's time to start diving in and talking about our thoughts. But first, we got to take a quick pause. Family, the holidays are here, which is perfect timing for today's sponsor, OneSkin. We all know that with all the holiday fun and festivities comes stress and harsh weather that can really take a toll on your skin. But thanks to OneSkin's disruptive approach that targets skin aging at the source, you can finish off 2023 with your skin at its healthiest. Evan and I love OneSkin. We have been using it for probably about 8 months, a year-ish now, and we can absolutely see a difference. For a limited time, our listeners, you all can enjoy an exclusive 15% off OneSkin products using the code MOMDAD when you check out at oneskin.co.
What makes OneSkin the best, you ask? The products are powered by a groundbreaking peptide, OS1, which is the first ingredient scientifically proven to prevent the accumulation of aged senescent cells, the primary culprit behind skin aging. The real magic, OS1 has actually been proven in the lab to actually reduce the biological age of skin by several years, meaning it not only prevents but slows down skin aging, leaving you with healthier and more hydrated and glowing skin.
And OneSkin just launched their mini bundles, which include face and eye topical supplement, body lotion, and cleanser, which all come in this cute travel bag. I just got one of these mini bundles, and I'm telling you, you are getting all of these amazing products that you're going to be obsessed with. The products are so good, okay? Evan and I love them. Seriously. Also, if you're gifting this holiday season, OneSkin's mini bundles are the perfect gift. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. OneSkin addresses skin health at the molecular level, targeting the root causes of aging so skin feels and appears younger. It's time to get started with your new face, eye, and body routine. Routine at a discounted rate today. New customers get 15% off with code MOMDAD at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code MOMDAD. The new year is approaching. Now is the best time to invest in your skin. Age healthy with OneSkin. Okay, so it is time to talk Golden Bachelor finale. First, just want to say I know this episode normally drops on Mondays and this one is dropping a day late. I want to say thank you all so much for understanding. Like I said, Evan was out of town, but he had to shift around his travel plans because I last minute needed some help with some things and Ember rehearsals and all of this. So we just had to do a quick switch around with your travel dates. So just as a heads up, just like today's episode was a day late on Tuesday, same thing is going to be going down with our Bachelor in Paradise recap. That will be coming out on Thursday morning. With that being said, this Bachelor in Paradise episode that we'll be recapping was an hour long.
Yeah.
They didn't give us a 2 hour long one. They gave us an hour long one. So we thought, let's do some call homes in that episode. It's been a minute since we did a few.
We've been very thin on getting those done. We just feel like we do them every once in a while now. I think we should hit a couple strong ones. You have a good chunk of them.
So please send those in the episode notes. You can find where you leave the voicemail. So send us all those call home questions. Can be about anything, and we'll cover some of those on Thursday morning's episode. And then, of course, next week, we have on Monday coming out the Bachelor in Paradise finale. which
I mean, everything's so up in the air. It's just insane. I just don't understand how there's a finale.
I don't understand how there's a finale either. How this is going to be like how next week, or I guess on Thursday is the final episode. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
There's going to be no couples. That's just my guess. But also next Monday, our Bachelor in Paradise finale episode is our last episode before we take a little bit of a break. Sorry. I pulled a Gary. No. Yeah. I had to pull a Gary of proposal.
Oh my gosh.
This is going to be our last episode for the next few weeks. But yeah, we're taking a little bit of a holiday break to spend time with family. We feel like we need to savor that family time. And also Ember has her big musical coming up. So we got then Tech Week. And so we want to be super present for that. So next Monday is our final episode for the next couple weeks. And then we will be back the first week of January on Wednesday, which I believe is January 3rd. And then I believe we'll be doing getting back into our regularly scheduled programming. Obviously, we have a wedding that I'm sure we'll be covering. We'll be talking Joey's season. We got to do our cast bios. Joey's season starts on the 22nd. I mean, so we're diving right back in.
We got some fun stuff planned for next year. I'm excited.
I cannot wait. And so just wanted to give you all a heads up about that.
Little cute update.
So cute. Can't wait. All right.
Let's get into this.
So we get this whole finale episode. So this is a live finale. It starts off with a cold open and we see the golden rose. And I just wanted to say something. I got to get my hands on one of those golden roses.
They look really nice.
I'm like, okay, all I can picture is this needs to be like a thing at theme parks now. You know how this is ABC, so this is a Disney franchise.
That's true.
So at Disneyland, in the Star Wars section, they have the lightsabers. I feel like they need to start selling golden roses.
You know what's interesting is I've had more people I talk to who never watched any of these shows tell me I've been watching this last one.
Everyone's been watching The Golden Bachelor. I completely agree.
Like I was out of town with some guys that are the farthest thing from watching the Bachelor franchise.
Yeah.
And they're tapped into this late one. Really like it. So it's definitely I feel like it's expanding the audience in a big way.
1,000%.
And I do like the idea of you can buy those.
Don't you want to go to Disneyland and walk into a gift shop and you can buy one of those golden roses? And then they can have various versions. They can have the real deal that's behind the glass box. That's thousands of dollars for the one or two people who are going to spend their money on that.
Right.
They also have the pens, right? Where it's a golden rose and there's a pen at the bottom.
I like that. The fake rose with a pen.
Yes, they can have Bachelor, golden Bachelor
That is
merch.
interesting that there's no do they need a Bachelor shop? You know how they have the Disney shops you go to?
Evan, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about at Disneyland.
Yes.
No, I was talking about in the mall. They have that.
Sure. I mean, sure.
Bachelor pop-ups.
But why not? Same thing. It's Universal does it too. You got all your different themed shows, shops, and then you can buy the wand or the lightsaber. I want to buy a golden rose. Also,
I'd rather real one though, but because that looks incredible. However they made that, it's metal and all.
Let me make something very clear to you.
Very clear to you.
If you were the Golden Bachelor and I was your final pick, I'd be like, we're selling this rose tomorrow.
Oh, we're getting signed?
No, because it's golden.
Yeah, but if you sell it, right? If you were famous, if you were on the show, maybe a little signature might kind of. If it had Gary's signature,
I don't know.
You don't think you'd go for more?
Maybe.
$100 more? But you're selling it but you're selling it to make money off of it.
I'm assuming that it's pure gold.
Okay, I think that's a big assumption, but I love it.
I'm assuming it's pure gold. Okay. So I get that golden rose. I'm normally you think about that Neil Lane ring. That
right.
I could sell this eventually. This ring costs a fortune.
Do a package deal.
But I keep the ring. Now I can sell the rose. We're going to go on. We can use the honeymoon, the rose money for the honeymoon or a down payment on our new house.
Yeah. Well, they're going to Italy, so we don't have to worry about that.
That's true. But it's just a thought.
It's an idea. I mean, listen, even if you don't want to sell it right away, you have it ready.
Yeah.
Ready for the sale. You put it up on eBay and see if anybody bids on it.
Yeah.
See if it goes up.
I think it's a pretty good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
And I know I've talked about like Halloween horror houses that are
Yeah.
themed like reality TV. I really don't know why we don't have like a section of Disneyland or something like that that's not Bachelor, Bachelorette themed. Like just one little area.
And someone pops out like, you're not here for the right reasons, and then goes back. It was the guacamole, and then they pop back.
Or even just like a little
animatronic, just like.
I mean, that would be everything to me. It's like the Winnie the Pooh ride, except instead it's like Jesse Palmer, and then there's like a Bigfoot that goes across, and then all of a sudden Sweetnums is like, bring it home to us. And, but that would be everything. But even just a little corner of like Disneyland where there's like a big giant rose petals and you can take photos, and there's a big ring you stand in, and then they have a little store next to it that sells Bachelor merch. I don't know.
I love it.
I guess
Baby, I hear you. Let's work on it. We'll do it, okay?
I'm just in my branding era. It's the pajamas.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Anywho, let's get to the actual thing. So,
she's like, anyway, back to that idea. I really do believe that if there's any investors out there, we should definitely put together some sort of event.
I'm just confused. Why is this happening?
I'm shocked that they don't have something.
Anywho, Jesse does the live open.
Yes.
And we find out that it is a star-studded audience in this room, okay?
Yeah.
Star-studded, we have Charity and Dotun, which, by the way, Charity is officially in the Dancing with the Stars finale.
Like final bracket,
if you
right?
have no, okay, first of all, everybody needs to be out voting for her, and now is the most important time. Vote, right? Mm-hmm. She has been crushing. Like, her dancing is beyond. Like, how is she's just incredible.
If she wins, that'd be kind of wild to say that like 2 bachelorettes have won Dancing with the Stars.
I believe it's 3.
3, because is it Caitlyn?
I think Caitlyn, Hannah Brown, and
like that's kind of like
Charity.
If you were to look at how many seasons of Dancing with the Stars there's been, I don't even know, maybe 10, 15, that 3 are from the same show.
Yeah.
Out of all the celebrities.
And guess what?
That's crazy.
No bachelors.
Yeah.
Just the bachelorettes, because the bachelorettes are the best.
That's kind of
absolute
wild.
Absolute powerhouses. So she's been crushing it. We also see Zach and Katie, which
Zach will never miss an event, by the way. I feel like he's been at every one.
Yeah, but
since he's
looks
just like at every single one. Like, I will not miss an opportunity to brand and to get my message out there of real estate and development. But you know what I mean? Like he's at every one kind of now. It's starting to get a little bit like.
But also,
I think
he looks like he hates being there. It's like it has to be contractual,
maybe
right?
Maybe he's the only guy that signed like a double contract. Like he signed a 20-year contract. He's locked in forever. And so he's always having to like go to everything versus everyone else signed 2-3 years or something.
I keep forgetting that he was this year. He was this year, Evan.
Wow. What?
Doesn't it seem like a millennia ago? Yes. That's how we started Your Mom and Dad.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Honestly, if you told me that was 4 years ago, I'd be like, yeah. And I didn't even do it. I just remember someone else doing it. That's crazy. It's only been this year. That's why it feels okay. That's why he's everything, because it just happened.
Yeah, because it just happened.
He was the last Bachelor.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, they've had success so far this year.
Yeah.
Zach and Katie are still together. Charity and Dotun got engaged.
Yeah.
We had an engagement now with Gary and Teresa. Like, they've had a successful year. Now, Bachelor in Paradise seems like it definitely won't be, but who knows? Maybe last minute we got a bunch of engaged couples. Graveyard. But yeah, saw Zach. Every time I look at him, I always the second I see Zach's face, I don't know why my brain is just like, what has he been up to? I just want to know what Zach's been up to. I have so many curiosities about Zach.
I can tell you one thing.
Yeah.
100% has a ice bath.
Oh, sure.
He got an ice bath. Like
a cold plunge?
A cold plunge. He definitely got one of those. There's no question.
That's what he used his money, his check from the show.
Yes. He spent like 10 grand on an cold plunge. And it's like he swears by it. And he's telling everyone about it. You gotta get it. Everybody's like, yeah, I know. It's like the most popular thing in the world right now. I'm telling you guys, it's changed my life. Now, actually, if you do the research, the endocrine system, what it does is the nervous system engages with the core. Like, he's so into it. And another thing he's been into, he definitely has like a craft brew draft in his garage.
Oh my God. His man cave?
Yeah, he's got a man cave and he's got one of those things. He's like, beer on tap, boys. And they're like, yeah, I mean, that's been around forever. It's not really like a new thing. And he's like, hey, finally. Cold ones. You know what I mean?
He's just like, oh, gotta have the man cave. The lady just,
oh, my beer sign can't live upstairs.
Confining me. I gotta and you know, Katie's like, I didn't say any of that.
But he has a huge like St. Pauli girl beer sign that's just glowing in there.
You know what it is?
Like,
it's just Michael Scott.
He kind of is a Michael Scott.
There's kind of a Michael Scott from The Office.
He's like a big, manly, buff Michael Scott.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but there's just something that just
like he definitely has a Kangol hat that he turns around to go on a date. You know what I mean? He definitely like
date Zach.
He definitely has a date Zach. And he's like, what kind of shirt should be a salmon?
Bad bitch energy leather jacket.
Yeah, exactly.
So we see them. Also, our favorite golden women are there. Wow. We've got our girls, our queens, including Faith, sitting front row.
Yeah.
Hey, that's weird. You know what I mean? That's a weird choice for the show to make Faith sit front row. After literally a week and a half ago, we had what seemed like the most emotional breakup at the time. Still just so emotional. And you're going to plop her in.
Smother you in it.
Front row.
Yeah.
And then Ellen front row.
So they can shoot to them.
Also,
like whenever something dramatic happens, they can go, are they crying yet?
They put Faith, Joan, and Ellen front row, who essentially seemed like they had the most. I know Joan had to leave early, but the three had the closest connection with Gary, and they put them in the front.
Yeah, because they want to see him squirm.
Watching your recent ex get engaged on live television.
Yes, that's what they do.
Like front row.
They want to see like, oh, is Faith about to cry? Let's zoom in on those tears.
They kept zooming in on her, and they'd have like moments where like we'd see Gary, telling Teresa how much he loved her, and they'd zoom in on Faith.
Any other
and I was just like,
guys,
stop. But we had some, and I'll be talking about it, we had some moments from the ladies where we saw it written all over their face.
Yes.
Their opinions about this finale. Shout out also Susan, a little choker.
I know, vibes.
Looking so stunning.
She's the coolest.
So sexy, stunning.
And did you hear that? What is it? It was I saw some story about the meatballs and that they weren't allowed to do fresh garlic, and that's why maybe there was gas or something like that.
So she's saying it's the meatballs now?
I think so. I think it's like she wasn't able to get fresh garlic there, so that was part of the problem.
Okay.
Or whatever,
It's admitting to the meatball gas. Well, also we see Joey there.
Yeah.
Gary's family is there, and then we have Jennifer Love Hewitt in the audience. Which was like, oh my God, it's so thrilling. Also, Reese Witherspoon's daughter and I think mom apparently were there. So, I mean,
Reese Witherspoon was there?
No, I think like Reese Witherspoon's mom and her daughter were there.
Got
it. I
you
just
mean
saw
grandma
that.
and granddaughter?
I think so. So. So, I mean, it was star-studded, and I'm like, I need this more often. I need some of these A-listers popping in because Jennifer Love Hewitt was giving it to us as an actor during some of these emotional scenes when they would cut to her, and she was just like, tears were rolling down. I'm like, I love this. Like, this is what we need. Because normally, God bless, we have...
She's auditioning for a new show.
It's like normally
and she can't really get in contact with the producers. So she's like, get me on the Bachelor finale and I will kind of give them mine and then I'll send that to them.
She's a goddess. And honestly, like normally we have an audience that's full of, people like me who are not actors.
Right.
So, when we try to emote with the camera in our face, I'm not going to be 100.
You're just like, it's just
on camera. I'm just
Gary,
really trying.
And it's just like,
yeah. But Jennifer Love Hewitt is an actor, so was selling it and I was living for it. Anywho, okay, now that we've covered the studio audience and my theories and haven't even gotten to Costa Rica yet, we have to take another quick pause and then we're going to get to Costa Rica. We're going to dive in, okay? Family, listen, I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place today. You can blame the pajamas or my aggressive period. Okay, sweating the holidays a little bit. Yes,
always.
Let's face it.
Always.
The holidays can be stressful, unfortunately. And to be honest, like I've shared recently over this last year, as I have aged, I have gotten a little more odorous. Okay, sorry, but it's true. And when I get stressed in particular, I tend to get a little stinky. Hooray. Okay, it's just the truth. Well, guess what? Now, no matter how stressful it gets, I am actually going to smell incredible with LUME. Yes, LUME is a game-changing whole body deodorant designed by an OBGYN to work not only on pits, but also feet, privates, and beyond. Personally, I use LUME in my pits. I use them under my underboobs, in the thigh folds, and especially the feet these days.
No matter where you use it, LUME is clinically proven to block odor all day long thanks to the one-of-a-kind pH-optimized formula. Unlike some deodorants that try to mask odor with a fragrance, LUME is formulated and powered by a mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. More like a pre-odorant. It's baking soda free, it's paraben free, and pH balanced for safe use below the belt. And they've got over 275,000 5-star reviews to show for it.
Wow, wow, wow. This holiday season, cross BO off your list of things to worry about. LUME has you covered. And let me tell you about LUME's starter pack. It is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, which I love, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And we have a special offer for you listeners. New customers get $5 off LUME's starter pack with our exclusive code and link. And for a limited time, returning customers can get $5 off their next purchase of $30 or more too. Use code MOMDAD at LumeDeodorant.com. That's LUMEDEODORANT.com, LumeDeodorant.com, code MOMDAD. Thank you, LUME, for making this holiday season smell a whole lot better. Okay, so we officially are in Costa Rica, and Gary's family is here. His daughters and granddaughters are here to come support him, as we are now going to see them meet both Teresa and Leslie.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, just overall, this episode got me. I know you made the final prediction for Teresa, and now that I've looked online, I know a lot of people were saying Teresa. I thought it was going to be Leslie. Like, it really shocked me. It really did shock me.
Well, I only got rattled there at the end. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, Fantasy Suites is what rattled me.
Yeah.
Because I always saw Teresa as like, you know what? Like, it's going to come and go, but Teresa seems to be the right fit for the lifestyle, for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But when he was acting like that way to Leslie, I was like, wait a second, maybe I'm totally wrong here.
Well, and I think that's kind of what confirmed it to me, because obviously we had the Faith upset where we saw Gary in front of her family say that he loved her. And I was like, okay, I think maybe that was like, you know, the emotions are flaring, you're caught in the moment, all of this. But then when we saw the Leslie moment where Gary was like, called her his girl at the fair or the carnival or whatever, and is like, you're my girl. And then in the fantasy suite, doubled down and was like, I think you're the one. I think you're
the
it.
one.
I was like, there's no way.
I mean, what? There's no higher. You can't go higher than
like,
that.
There's no way that this is going to happen twice, with Faith first and then with Leslie. There's no way I even thought like there's no way the show is going to let us see that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they would cut that part out to make Gary and Teresa's love story look less complex.
Right. Yes, right. To make you more confused.
But, you know...
But they did what they did. You know, like they left it all in there, and then they probably cut a bunch of stuff out of Teresa's to make it feel lopsided so that it threw us off.
Right. Which is so interesting, because at the end of the day, and I was seeing people post about this, it was making me laugh so hard because it's so true. Almost every Bachelor season ends... with an upset like this.
Right.
And I don't mean an upset like, I think Gary and Teresa
not
clearly seem very happy together, but a moment where, because of the Bachelor's actions, we end up having mess.
Yes.
And so even with the Golden Bachelor, with a man in his 70s, it was like, oh no, Gary. Oh my God. Because we even see Leslie say later, I don't regret, I don't wish that he wouldn't have said, I love you. I'm okay with him saying, I love you. It was everything he said that he didn't need to say tacked on to the I love you.
Okay, this is real talk.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a horny thing? That like, you've been dating all these people. You haven't been able to have sex.
Okay.
It's been like a month or two. And now you're right at the line, and you really are loving these people.
Right.
But like any time, there's like post-sex clarity.
Yes.
Where like once all the like tension
sure.
and everything is drained, like you're really left with the clarity. Like you can kind of like fall in love, not fall in love, but you can fall into because of just like tension. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
And then like once it's over, you kind of go, oh, actually we have nothing in common, whatever. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but with Leslie, but I'm more saying like, I do wonder if like the sexual chemistry with her was so great that like once they got together, then almost like, okay, now I'm able to actually see exactly with both women how I feel, and there's no more of this kind of cloudiness.
Maybe. We don't
I'm just wondering,
I
because
don't know.
every bachelor seems to do this.
Yes. Now we don't know for sure like what level of intimacy happened with
But I'm just like, as a theory.
But I think that there's definitely something to be said with specifically the men coming in and just
really
being like
loose with the words.
I mean, yes, instead of just having the clarity of mind to be like, what's the wise decision right now? And I don't want to hurt someone and I don't want to mess with someone's heart. And it's just kind of like, I'm just going to have verbal diarrhea and tell you all these things. And then, not the wisdom to be like, how am I going to protect this person in this situation? Because this situation is already tough enough as it is. And I have to tell you, and I know we're going to get into it, but the thing that to me made it doubly painful with the whole Leslie situation where it's like, you know, I love Gary, but I was like, Gary, I was really bummed out. I'll be real. I'll be fully transparent.
Yeah.
I was really bummed out.
Yeah.
Because I felt like of all people, Gary knows that Leslie has been through infidelity.
Her
and
past,
she was very clear with Gary about how this process is extremely hard for her because of the infidelity.
Yeah.
So I just really wish of all people that he would have been so careful with Leslie because he knew that and she was clear with him about that. So that one,
Are we talking about this? Because I have thoughts too. Or are we going to get into it later?
Let's get into it later. Because
Well, you kind of went there for a second and now like you're pulling back on me. So like, what are we doing?
It's just one of those things.
No, I
just have to be honest with you. Like I am so happy for Gary and Teresa.
Of course.
And I'm so excited for this wedding and that they found love.
But the wake was not small.
The wake was not small.
That's the issue.
And the combination of kind of like what went down with Faith and then with Leslie,
it was not good at the end there. It was not well played. Let me put it that way.
I love Gary, but I was having a lot of emotions where I was like, okay, you know what? I think I probably, and this is my fault. I think I probably made him, I literally did call him Jesus Christ and Santa at some point where I'm just like, he is human and there are mistakes that are made, especially when someone is following grief and what that looks like in this process. And also with the show Frankenbites, what they push the lead to do. I don't know.
Yes.
But I was feeling a lot of emotions.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Let's get into this because I have thoughts too.
Okay. All right. So first of all, we see the meeting of Teresa with the daughters and granddaughters. Yeah. And I have to say, Gary right away, he's like, the first thing he brings up with Teresa is he's like, she is a professional businesswoman. She's very logical in her thinking. He's like, logical like I am. Now, that was a really interesting moment for me because I guess what we've seen of Gary often when I think of him, I don't think logical. I think very like sensitive and emotive, which I guess you can be both. But I think maybe that's the side of Gary we haven't seen as much, which is more logic driven. Because he really did. And we saw that shift when he was talking to Teresa when they were having their sit down before the fantasy suite. Where when he found out she was a businesswoman, it was like a shift for him. He loved that. And then clearly after their fantasy suite, they had a lot of conversations about what their life goals are. So he went into this meeting with Teresa and his daughters, first thing saying to them, she's a businesswoman. She's logical. And I think
something he
seems to value
and prioritize.
And I guess maybe the type of path that they both want to walk on in their older years. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Also, too, what I keep thinking about as well, which I was forgetting, is the fact that they're the same age. She's, I think, 70, 71.
Right.
So they're closer. And I think
versus Leslie was like maybe 10 years younger.
Like 61, 60. That's a big difference.
That is big.
Lifestyle-wise, I think. Big. But Teresa comes in, and at first it seems good, but there was a moment where it got tight for a second where I'm like, oh, is this...
With the orange juice thing?
Smoothly, where he had offered her orange juice.
I think they threw that in there just to make it awkward. Because I do feel like I was a little bit just nervous about how it was going to go. And I felt like she killed it. Like I felt like she went in, great energy, made everyone feel at home. I felt like she fit in well. You could tell that the daughters relaxed and were immediately like Team Teresa, which I thought was interesting. And then I felt like, oh shit, now Leslie's gonna have to come in and kind of win them over.
Totally.
Versus it felt like Teresa did know how to kind of go in there and just be sweet and open and honest. But I felt that whole awkward moment was like total show editing.
Okay.
It just felt like it was like, because they probably had to sit there for a second and then producers are talking and they're like, cool. And there's like one little OJ. I felt like they did that intentionally to make it awkward.
You're right. You're probably right.
Generally, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Generally, I'm the guy that's like, I believe everything I see. But that one felt like they cut from like when they were waiting around for like lighting to do something.
You know what? You're probably
definitely
right.
not just like, anyway, you want some orange juice? Like
to make us scratch our head.
That's not normal. You know what I mean? Like it felt awkward.
Even though I was dying when later in the evening.
It's like, can you believe there might have been some vodka?
No, he's like, I tasted it and there was vodka in the orange juice. That is hilarious because all I could think about was you because apparently Gary's drink is orange vodka juice, aka screwdriver.
Let's go.
And so the fact that like
not screwdriver, orange vodka juice. So good.
It just made me giggle.
That is funny.
But no, you're probably right because after that, everything
it was just smooth
sailing. And Teresa, the boldness of Teresa to sit down with the two daughters and was like, well, the first day I met him, he told me to lick icing off of his lips. And I'm like, damn, Teresa.
Well, it's funny. The daughters seem so much more relaxed and like quote edgy compared to him. So it's funny because they're kind of like they're laughing at that. They're like, that's smooth with the lick off the lips thing. The daughters kind of got like a sarcastic sense of humor edge to them that I really like.
The daughters vibes.
That's what I'm saying. Like they don't like he's like this kind of just oops, I slipped on a banana peel kind of energy, and they're kind of like they have a fun. I don't know. I just feel like they could go more like what I'm saying is like my style of humor that I like to watch. Like I feel like they have that. And he's just like, oh, Charlie, I'm back home. It's good to see my daughters. Like it's funny that like there's a juxtaposition there. So the fact that Teresa actually felt like she was kind of more vibing with the daughters, like their sense of humor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I took it that way. I took it more like I didn't feel like Teresa was trying to be funny when she mentioned the licking the icing off the lips. I was more getting the vibe.
Factual?
Yes, of like Kathy in the background being like, see, this is what I'm talking about. She's oversharing. Like, Teresa, not now, not the time to say it. Now, I thought it was so funny, but I was more getting the vibe that Teresa is just kind of like, she just says it.
She just says stuff.
As we've seen in the past with Kathy and the other ladies where it's like, she just kind of says it.
I was like, think of that.
I felt like she just said it. And it was like, oh, and then the daughters handled it really well by being like, Dad's smooth.
I didn't think he had it in him.
Instead of making it awkward, you know.
Okay, all right. That makes sense. Both make sense, I guess. But yours is actually making more sense.
Later in the conversation, though, you know, it was a real connection point because she then shared with them about Billy.
Yeah.
And for then the daughters to hear, you know, both Teresa and Gary married their high school sweetheart a similar way that each person passed. I would imagine, especially as a kid of the parent, that I would feel really comfortable and good hearing about that they have a very similar story, because then I'd be like, okay, this is potentially new stepmom coming in who like understands the dynamic of how we feel, where, you know, at the end of the day, when it's Christmas and we want photos up of my mom, of Tony, and she's going to feel comfortable with that because she's going to want photos of Billy and want to remember those stories. Like, I totally see how then that would be
huge.
And
I felt that way regarding their whole relationship.
Yeah.
Was like later on when she's like talking about Billy.
Yeah.
Like in length.
Yeah.
About this one time and I almost threw up from drinking too much about Billy. And then he's able to like openly talk about Tony. And then they talk about how great that is. Like, if I was the daughters, I would find a lot of comfort in the fact that she knows what we've gone through.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that was huge.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a massive element that like adds toward Teresa as in like we're bonded in this way, which is huge.
Of course. Yeah. No. So I felt like that was a really like powerful moment between the daughters and Teresa, and it connected them. And, you know, they told their dad, they were like, yeah, we can totally see her in the family. Yeah. We love her. his daughter Angie, I love his daughter Angie, she cracks me up, where she was like, did you get clarity in the fantasy suite? I mean, like, did you knock boots? Like, I love how open they are, like you were saying. She's like, did you knock boots? And Gary's like, we are not talking
That's what I mean.
about
like what kids are more open than the parents in regards to talking about the parents' sex life? You know what I mean? Like Jesse can't even handle. Jesse's like, oh God, ew. And then the daughter's like, well, did you guys hook up or not? And then Gary's like, oh please.
It reminded me of me and my mom. Like that's so me and my mom's dynamic. Like if she was on this show, I'd be like, okay mom, shoot it to me straight. What happened in the fantasy suite? And she'd be like, Jessica, that is not Jessica, we do not talk about that. Is not enough is enough, Jessica.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Mom, come on, let's just
so
be
funny.
honest. But what he did say, which I did make note of, is he said Teresa was always the safe choice.
Yeah.
He said that. And then he said, but when they got to the fantasy suite, somehow in the fantasy suite, and since suddenly the kisses were sweeter, the hugs were longer, all of this. And then I felt like later when we were in the live studio audience and cut to Teresa and him sitting together, and she's like, I'll tell you what changed, Jesse. I knocked his boots off in the fantasy suite. So I'm definitely getting an energy of...
She's like, I have something called the Optimus Prime 3000. It's something I do. And I immediately, every man falls in love with me. She's like, it is called...
Not something I do.
She's like, I have a move. And every man who has ever experienced this move has fallen in love with me. It's called the Love Creator 6000. She's like, listen, I was already the safe choice. I had the connection. I had the ex-husband. I have everything connected. But what no one else in this group has is the Optimus Prime. The Transformer, I call it. She's like, I will be selling a course. She's like, I was starting here. Subscribe to my channel. I will be teaching you all the methods. and then like the first name under like as a testimony is Gary. Yeah. Gary's just like, I just tell you this. I was blown away. 5 stars.
I thought she was absolutely darling.
She was always the safe choice, but then she became the only choice. Transformer
the Love Creator 6000 is ridiculous. You know what though, honestly, that's kind of the vibe I was getting. Was a little bit like well, she said it in the fantasy suite. I knocked his boots off, and then she goes, what? I'm a really good kisser. And we're all like, oh, we see you, Teresa. We see you, Teresa. We see you. But that definitely was the vibe I was getting, where it's like, there was she was always the safe choice. They obviously always connected. They had so much and then after that conversation, he's like, oh my God. And then he kept talking about later. So then we can skip to when they have their one-on-one time after meeting the daughters. And we find out later from him, he's like, you answered all of my questions without me even having to ask. And so I was getting a vibe that like, and he said, any red flag I had, you answered without. So she went in, and like you've said before with Teresa, she has the PowerPoint.
She knows what she's doing. She's smart with it, and I think that's huge.
Yeah,
it's like preparing for a date. It's like even if you're like, if it's like having some topics or having some good questions, that can make your date so powerful.
Yes.
And I feel like she did that to the whole relationship.
She
like
really
intentional.
did. She was very, very intentional. And so it very much seemed like to me, they got in that fantasy suite. She had her PowerPoint. She answered any question he could possibly have before he even asked. And so he's like, oh, wow, you're all these things and more, and you're communicating and all of my questions. And then on top of it, it seemed like it was a wonderful night.
I just love the idea of like them doing interviews post, and his hair's all disheveled, and he's like, it's Teresa. Teresa wins. Like before he even got to the second date, he's like, it's Teresa. Or he opens the door and he goes, it's Teresa. And then and he gets sucked back in.
Because let's take a moment to really recall and remember the start of Teresa's fantasy suite date. This man, hey everybody, color me confused. This man really let his heart lead, because I mean, and he says that he's logical, right? But it felt like the heart was really leading, because I'll be real, before Teresa's date, it was all Leslie.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that, but it was all Leslie. Yeah. And then he gets on the Teresa date and he can barely even talk to her. He's like, I am not here right now. I am not feeling great. I am not feeling fantastic and darling about this, but she's a wonderful woman.
I'm not feeling darling.
That's where it's at. Yeah. And then it shifts entirely to like, it's
done.
Teresa, right?
Treesa.
Teresa. So when we see them in their alone time moment, he is like, we're in love. I love you. Even when he said goodbye to her after the daughter moment, he was like, I just want to let you know once again, I am in love with you. I mean, we were seeing it was solid.
It was locking in.
It was locking in. And the thing about Teresa too, and I have to say shout out to Teresa with like the PowerPoint and everything. She does an amazing job of addressing what they're doing. Like there's another woman here. And I know there's another woman here. Yeah. And I'm going to let you know, Gary, that I want to be with you more than anything. But if you choose her, I want you to be happy. If you choose me, I need you to be 1,000% sure. And she was very communicative.
She kept bringing that up too. Every date she'd be like, I like you so much and I want to let you know I'm all in. But she would always kind of like have a sale, like a point of sale.
Yeah.
Where she'd be like, just so you know, I'm all in. Like she was constantly consistent with that message.
No, she really did. She like really like hit that home. And I felt like, you know, maybe for the lead, it was like what he needed to hear to remind him that she is very confident in their relationship.
Yeah.
And also that she is like, but then also taking the reins by being like, if you're not 1,000%, I don't want it. Because I'm here for you and to get married.
Yes, agreed.
So, and then we had Leslie, which then was an entire...
It's the real story here.
Switch, which is the real story. We got to take a quick pause before we dive into Leslie. So, like I have told you before, family, Evan has been in his home reno era, and he officially... He knocked down a wall, okay? He created a new nook.
Let's go.
He created a new nook that we are furnishing to be a cozy, cozy corner. And obviously the only place we are looking to get that furniture to make that cozy corner is Article, okay? Over the years, we have gotten couches from Article, dining room tables, chairs, and we have always been so happy at not only the gorgeous style, but also the comfort and quality and the price.
Yeah. And thanks to Article's online only model, they have some really amazing prices. Article's curated assortment of mid-century modern, coastal, industrial, Scandinavian, and boho designs makes furniture shopping super simple. You can go to their website, and because of how incredibly curated it all is, any pieces you buy are really going to look good together.
Article offers fast, affordable shipping across the U.S. and Canada. Plus, guess what? They won't leave you waiting around. No, you pick the delivery time and they'll send you updates every step of the way. I am telling you, my experience with Article's customer care team has always been top notch. They are truly the best. They are there when you need them to make sure your experience is smooth and stress-free. Article is offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, visit article.com/momdad and the discount will automatically be applied at checkout. That's article.com/momdad for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. Okay, so next we have Leslie. And right off the top, you know, Gary says, Leslie, I care so much about Leslie. She makes me laugh so hard, which is what we've been talking about over the past couple episodes. We're like, Leslie is so funny. She makes him laugh. He seems to have a lot of fun with her, which is why I thought that maybe Leslie was going to be the choice. On top of, again, what I heard him declare in the fantasy suite, I also thought that she was going to be his choice because they've seemed to have a strong chemistry this entire time. And I will say this too. After the Teresa family time and then their one-on-one after, I was thinking, oh, is he going to seem off with the Leslie piece at the top? But from my perspective, when he introduced Leslie and talked about her before to his family, he seemed fully fine to me. I didn't feel like he was off at all.
Yeah.
And then I started to watch him get more off and off and off and off.
Yes.
And I think the big moment where he switched into off mode was when one of his daughters, Jenny, I believe her name is, said, I'm concerned that Leslie is maybe nervous to make a commitment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's be real. The family's going to play a huge part in this.
Of course.
Like, if we weren't together and I had Ember, and then like I met someone, and like Ember was like, there was two people.
Yeah.
And Ember was like dying laughing and hanging out with someone more than the other. I'm saying in that case, like it would be a massive sway. I'd be like, whoa, okay, this is huge, you know? So if his daughters are finding something with Teresa that they connect with more, that is going to play a role in his brain to go like, well, if we're going to be spending all these dinners together and all this time together, and this person seem to really like identify with her story and her vibe, that is going to play a role.
Of course. But the thing that's interesting though is I felt like the daughters loved Leslie.
Yes, they did.
And even I think again, it was Jenny.
The granddaughter, maybe?
Well, the granddaughter was like, I was Team Teresa, and then I met Leslie, and now she's like, the second Leslie starts talking to me, I start crying.
Right.
She's like, and that feels to me like a sign.
Right.
And then I think it was Jenny who even then told Gary later that like, hey, I'm a little concerned that Leslie might be nervous about the commitment. But I think it was Jenny. It was either Jenny or Angie that on ITM, they said, I got to be real, like, Leslie and my dad's dynamic is what I saw for him. And how they're joking and having fun together. And I also wondered because at the top of this episode, we hear Gary and his family talking about how funny Tony was and how she didn't even like it, not even intentionally would make everybody laugh.
Yeah.
So Leslie's so funny and charming that I wonder then too if, you know, obviously there's the connect with what Teresa and Gary have gone through, but for the daughters, when they're saying like, oh, we can see this dynamic maybe even a little more so is potentially because they're like, oh, my dad and mom used to laugh a lot together. Yeah. And Leslie and my dad are laughing a lot together.
Yeah.
So I felt like the daughters and the whole family was really torn. But I felt like the pivotal moment was when Jenny was like, Leslie seems super emotional, and I think that might be a sign that she's nervous about committing, which I felt like, no shade to Jenny, was a reach.
A reach, but also like understandable reach. Like it's like a read. It's a read. You have a minute to read someone that might be with you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a read.
But it seemed like Gary like took that and maybe ran 1,000 miles with it.
Yeah, and I also think that like if you're talking to someone and you're going, oh, wait, Teresa's had a 50-year marriage.
Yeah.
Like that does signal in you, even if you don't know, because you don't know this person. You don't know anything about it. You're just meeting her for the first time.
Of course.
You know, that Teresa does yell commitment. And so at least if you have a moment to judge, you're like, well, at least I know that's kind of locked in.
Right. They don't know that Leslie's been in like where there was infidelity.
Exactly.
And, like,
they don't know
she
any.
Went through it. Yeah.
They just know this person has been with the same person for 50 years, just like my dad has.
Yeah.
So they can speak that same language. So, I mean, you can only go with what you have for a moment.
That's true.
And, you know, so there's a lot. But no, I think Leslie is like a better hang. Like she's got that like, she's so cool.
Well, that's
and she's just vibes.
I just want Leslie to be in my family.
Yeah, like Leslie's got the vibes all day.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I feel like Teresa's super sweet and has the resume.
I hear that.
The ex-husband passed just like Tony did, the 50 years of marriage just like him, the career just like, you know what I mean? It's like there's the resume is very locked in versus Leslie's like all like charisma and vibe. And so it's kind of that
and
like
Prince wrote a song about her.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you know what I'm
It's just
saying?
different. It's just there's two different vibes. I mean, that's a tough. They're so different.
They are
in
both
vibes
very different in their energies.
Like that's very. I would be very torn. Like, you know.
But Leslie came right out, and the fact that she was just like she was making me laugh so hard though too. And she started, and she was like, "Yeah, I felt like your dad, like as the Bachelor, was kind of had this prim and proper energy." She's like, "So then when we were in the fantasy suite, and he said fuck, I was like, yes, I can swear it from him." And then Gary goes, "By the way, that was fuck with an exclamation point, not a question mark." See, those are those moments though where I feel like Gary's a little more that like a little more mischievous, because even his daughter said like, oh, the way he speaks with people, his language is joking around all the time. So I think the show has definitely showed us a lot of like the romance Gary, but I think Gary, he's dropping the F-bombs. He's talking about, being like, I think that's maybe more of the vibe.
Agreed.
So anyway, she was making me crack up. That moment was hilarious. The audience lived for that too. But she was so vulnerable.
Yeah.
She really was. I admired so much that she was really straightforward and honest with the daughters about the whole conversation and thoughts she had when Gary said, "Till death do us part."
Yeah.
I thought that was really admirable that she didn't just like feed a line
Yeah.
and, you know, say where she ended up, like where, Gary ended up helping her get to a point where she felt really comfortable, that she didn't just bring up the part that she felt really comfortable.
Yeah.
She was like, I'll be honest, it made me feel anxious.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had that. So I don't know. And it makes me nervous. And I thought that was...
She didn't have to say that.
She didn't have to say that at all. And that was really vulnerable. And I just felt
maybe
like,
to a fault.
Maybe to a fault.
Like maybe not. Maybe that's something you say later. Maybe
I know.
Not well played on her part.
But I would say
honesty is important.
But
I'm just
say-
saying I feel like Teresa wouldn't have said that if she felt that way.
Probably not.
She kind of plays those roles better. She knows how to play a little bit better. Be like, ooh, maybe not the right time. Leslie's just so honest.
Yeah, I feel like Leslie, it was maybe like quote unquote vulnerable to a fault, but in the way of like the right person would have appreciated that.
Of course. I'm not saying she shouldn't have done it. I'm more like,
No, I
there
hear you.
are times to say certain things. You know what I mean? And that might have not been the right time.
No, I hear you. Well, but essentially it went great.
Yeah.
Just like how Teresa's went great. It went great with Leslie. Until we go outside and Gary is sitting with Leslie. Now, as we remember, when Gary had that moment with Teresa, he was like, I love you so much. Let me just, hit that home. I love you. And like had that confirmation. But with Leslie, we literally see him sit and he's just like,
he's so uncomfortable.
So,
about them Cowboys.
What about those Dodgers? Yeah. Like it felt like he was sitting with someone he had never met before.
Well, it was like, oh, you're sitting with someone you're about to break up with. Like that was the energy.
Yes. And she was like, oh, it feels so good after meeting your family. And he was like, so what are you thinking? You ready to go?
Yeah. He was like, we gotta wrap this.
It was like very much giving
She's
me
like, what?
Like from a movie and what also IRL energy of like the guy, not that I'm saying he's being this way, but I'm saying the energy of like the guy that, you hook up with and right after the hookup, he wants you to leave his house, but like you don't want to leave. And it's just like, well, so are you ready to get an Uber now or no? Like
I called you an Uber.
Yeah. That was like the energy where I was like sweating watching it. Panicking. Well, that's kind of
what I'm talking about that post, coitus thoughts where it's like this, like the ushy gushy he put out for her was so intense, and then it kind of on a dime switched.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he went from like this is the whole point of this whole episode.
Yeah.
Is the switch.
The switch
was so radical. Oh yeah. And so.
This man would be the worst poker player on the planet. Like straight up, this man would be the worst poker player. Bless him. He cannot hide. It was like how we saw him with Teresa at the top of their fantasy suite date where he couldn't hide it. And then now with Leslie, it's like he cannot.
Dude, he hit her. This comment was one of the most insane comments I've ever heard someone say. Because I always think about what would I say if someone said I love you and I don't love them back? You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? And he's done a really good job up until this point. The issue is once you tell someone you love them, if you don't tell them you love them next time, it's very fucking weird.
It's very weird.
Right?
Yes.
And if you said you love me right now and I said that's so nice, right? You'd be like, what?
Oh,
that's weird.
If you said that to me,
so
I'd start
he
panicking.
Said something like, she goes, I love you. And he goes like, that is such an amazing sentiment. And he goes, and he rubs his chest. And I think he was rubbing his chest to not get an anxiety attack, not because he was feeling this. Like it was such
he was trying to like calm himself
it was like,
down.
Or it was like so performative where he was like so uncomfortable that he like goes, he's like, so sweet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what she hit him with, the direct I love you. Because 3 days ago he was like, you're the one.
Yeah.
And then he hits her with that's a sweet sentiment.
Oh my God.
I mean, talk about your
panic.
whole body going cold if you're Leslie. You're like, that's
also throughout this whole thing, like from when he's talking to her right after the daughters, then into their evening, which we'll dive into. But like, I have so many questions about like what he was and wasn't allowed to do. I do have a lot of questions about that. To his credit in this, because I got a lot to say once we have the actual conversation piece. But like, as far as not ending things right then and there, I wonder if it was just like, you can't. Like if that was really pushed on him, like maybe. You need to make sure that like, we don't know who it's going to be. You got to really like, who knows behind the scenes what you're getting fed.
I think he's new to this whole thing. He hasn't dated in 50 years.
Yeah,
and
I was thinking about that
up
too.
In it, and he's doing classic young love mistakes where you tell everybody you love him.
Apparently he has dated since.
Whatever one. I'm just saying however many
people. Yeah.
But I'm just saying like he's new. He's 50 years out of practice, really, and so he's probably someone that and he's probably a lover.
Yeah.
And so he probably jumps in way too quick and just gives it all and doesn't realize we got to play this a little safer.
No,
man.
there is something to be said. I will say, as someone who, got into a relationship quite young.
Yeah.
He married right out of high school, his high school sweetheart. He never dated anybody else. So you're like, okay, when you don't have tons of dating experience in this. So there mistakes will be made. I
have a couple friends that are divorced and got into relationships like right after.
Yeah.
Because they were, you know what I mean? They were used to like having that thing.
Of course.
And then some of them worked out, some of it didn't. And now they're kind of like trying to figure it out. But I'm saying that the quickness at which they kind of were like back into that, like, I love you was quick because it's like all you've known.
Of course.
So, I mean, I do think that he can be guilty of being a little bit like, here's way too much. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, of course. We're all just learning and growing over here for sure. But I mean, the way that he ended that conversation after the meet with the daughters was he literally goes, okay, prob time for me to take off. Give me a big fat hug. And it was just so different.
So awkward.
The energy was so different. And I felt for her so much, just like how I felt for Teresa at the beginning of her fantasy suite date, except now for Leslie. It's like, now this is post fantasy suite date, post meeting your family. There's so much more at stake here. You've had these intimate conversations. And she's in ITMs going, Gary was a little off.
She's like, I went in fully confident. I was writing my vows. Everything was cool. And now I don't even know if it's going to happen. That has to be rattling.
She said, and she kept reiterating that. And we heard that in the live portion too, where she was like, the things that were said to me in the fantasy suite.
That's the thing.
Led me to believe. And she said this about herself too, which I know so deeply, right? Even though I don't know this woman, where she's like, I tend to look at life in a way that I go, oh, we'll see. She's like, that's my persona. And we read that off of Leslie. She was like, what was told me in the fantasy suite made me feel so confident that I wrote my vows. Like I wrote my vows and it was like, I'm good walking in. And in my heart, watching then her go meet the daughters and the granddaughters, I rewatched that part again after everything happened. And it was like, oh, she walked in with that confidence. Like she was like, oh, there's no question.
Well, what wasn't even said in the fantasy suite was enough for me to think. Like when someone looks at you and says, you're the one,
like,
that's
I think
enough.
It's you.
No, he said, you're the one.
Well, also then like.
And then if there's a whole bunch more said off camera, it's like, dude.
And also
like,
then
how could you possibly think it's not happening?
And then also too, like, there was that moment and I kept getting stuck on that moment with the group date where he said, you're my girl. And I was like, that was so romantic and it was so intense. And we find out that in the live later that Leslie said he also slipped her a special note that day. So you're like, okay, he's calling me his girl. He's slipping me a special note.
That's way too much.
It's too much, Gary.
If you're not going to choose her, it's way too much, bro.
It was too much.
You made it so, you didn't fuck up the whole show and then you fucked up right at the end.
Well, it was so flawless, the whole show.
Really
and I think
was.
that's why the whole thing was rattling because I feel like we're so used to our bachelors bumbling. Sorry, Zach, but Zach bumbled.
There's a lot of bumbling, a lot of confusion. Bumbled.
He bumbled. Zach bumbled through the season. So then when Zach hit sex week,
right,
and then was doing what he did,
it's not like shocking.
It was a little bit like, wow, that was wild. But it's also like, well, Zach's been bumbling. I think it's because it's been so flawless that then this at the very end just was unfortunate.
Yeah,
especially in the midst of then where you're like, yes, like. There's a beautiful engagement.
And it wasn't like a little bumble. It was like a big one. I mean, he left her devastated.
Okay.
Like maybe top I've ever seen.
Yeah. And I love Leslie so much. So I think America did.
And I also think that Leslie's not easily devastated.
I know.
So I think like we all kind of saw it and we're like, yeah, anyone would have been wrecked over that arc.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this sit down that they have.
Yeah.
But first, one last pause.
Yes.
One last pause, family. Today's episode is sponsored by Honey Love. We've officially made it to December, which means it's time for 12 days of deals at Honey Love, my go-to for bras and shapewear. I'm wearing my Honey Love bra right now. December 1st through the 12th, Honey Love will be dropping new limited time deals nearly every single day, so do not miss out. You know how I feel about Honey Love. It is the only shapewear I wear. It is comfortable. Yes, shapewear being comfortable. I said it. And their bras, oh my gosh, say goodbye to uncomfortable underwire and bulky fabrics that trap heat. Honey Love's bras feature supportive bonding that eliminates the need for underwire without sacrificing lift. Plus, they're made with fabric that's so soft, you do not want to take it off. Like literally a bra that you're like, oh my God, I don't feel like I need to like rip this off at the end of the day. I love it. I love all their bras, but my go-to is their crossover bra. It's what I'm wearing right now. I would show it all to you, but I'm scared we're going to get demonetized on YouTube. But trust me, it looks so cute on, okay? And as for their shapewear, all amazing. My go-to is the Super Power Short. I love how it works with the curves. Plus, the best part is it won't ever roll up or down thanks to flexible boning hidden in the side seams. They also have such comfy leggings, by the way. Check out their leggings, please. Listen, I want to be comfy during the holiday events, baby, so you know it's Honey Love for me. Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save up to 20% off site-wide at honeylove.com/momdad this month only. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. It's time to ditch the underwire for good thanks to Honey Love. honeylove.com/momdad. All right, here we go. So Gary comes in to Leslie's suite. Something I noticed, this is a little side note. When Gary went into Teresa's suite after, he was wearing a zip-up hoodie and like comfy sweatpants. And I noticed because Teresa was all glam.
Yeah.
And then he walked in with the zip-up hoodie. And granted, he looked so cute. He always looked so handsome. But I was like, okay, Cash King. I'm like, this woman out here is like, she's doing the full dime and you're running in with the zippy. He went into Leslie's wearing a button-down shirt.
Yeah.
That was a sign to me.
Interesting.
I was like, he's going to Teresa's in his comfy pajama
Like
vibes.
locked in, we're good.
It's like we've been married now. You know, I'm rolling in my sweats because we're going to have a cozy evening. And now I'm going into Leslie's and I'm wearing my button down because I'm feeling formal. This is still, we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
And she right away communicates with him. She's like, hey, you've been off. You've been weird. This is the beginning of where he was losing me.
Yeah.
He knew he was done.
100%.
He knew he was done.
He was done after the meeting of the family.
Yeah.
Like on the outside when they just were like wrapping up, they were 100% done.
He knew he was done. Now the question is production saying you can't end it with her? So then is he having to tap dance? Or was he tap dancing on his own? Because what he said to her was like, hey, it's been so stressful. I'm exhausted. I'm so sorry. And then he apologizes to her that he's been off. Yeah. And then he's like, let's toast and start fresh. And he's like, to us, whatever. So there was that moment that gave you hope that like, oh, maybe he is just tired. And then if I'm Leslie, I'm like, okay, phew. Then he's making a joke at me going like, you've been different, and being playful. That was where it started to lose me.
I feel like he's a classic example of you can be too nice.
Interesting. Yeah.
That like
when you're not just
that, like,
honest.
Niceness can be a defense mechanism against something. Like that.
That's a really good point.
You can overdo it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can be kind and nice, but at some point it's much kinder to be real.
Yeah.
And I felt like he got into that nice guy thing at the end.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I don't like ever being the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to keep delaying it until I'm forced to do it. it just kind of gave me that energy.
I think you're right.
It's like nice guy too far.
That's an important point. That's actually an important point for me to hear, because I feel like sometimes I can go into that sounds so like I can be too nice, but I can go into that territory where sometimes instead of being like blunt and honest, because I'm like, well, I don't want to hurt the person, and I'm like, okay, Jessica, evaluate. Do you not want to?
You can be nice to me though. Maybe just be blunt with everybody else.
Shut up. but like, there's those moments where I'm like, okay, I'm being nice because I'm like, oh, I don't want to hurt them. But then when I'm really evaluating it, if I look in a mirror, I'm going, are you being nice because you don't want to hurt them, or is it because you want to avoid being uncomfortable?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly
and
what it is.
And you don't want to be the bad girl that someone's going to be upset at. It's like with Gary, it's like, do you not want to be the bad guy who has to break someone's heart, but then you end up hurting it further because you're extending that.
So it's kind of like, that's that's kind of where I felt he fell into.
I feel that. I recognize that for sure. And I can relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's relatable. Honest. I mean, no one wants to get in like, it's hard to be blunt. It's hard to be real with someone.
Yeah.
But there comes like a point where you're like, the hurt becomes far worse than being blunt.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Well, after the cheers, she makes a album for him, and it's an album with all of their memories and the card. And this is another moment where I was like, oh no. The second I saw this, I was like, we're done. Because the way he received the album, he was like, oh, this is so lovely. This is so nice. And I'm like, we saw Gary's reaction when Teresa put a hand on his shoulder when he was driving, and he can't get over it.
Your hand on my shoulder means so much.
And you're like, this man really, when he loves somebody, any
simple
little
simple
gesture, he's like, I will never forget the moment that Teresa put her small, tiny hand on my big shoulder, and she did.
It's like, that's...
And so when he got that album...
And he wasn't doing backflips.
And he wasn't literally in puddles on the floor. I was like, oh,
he's like,
done.
What a sweet sentiment this is also. You know, it's like, oh God. And I'll be honest with you though, worst case scenario is someone making you a scrapbook and you don't really like them anymore. I mean, that is worst. Like, if I could think of worst feelings of like, I'm about to break up with someone and they just made me a gorgeous scrapbook, I would be crawling out of my skin with just like, what do I do
And then
here?
Simultaneously, my whole body was hurting because like, maybe I'm so wrong, but the vibe I get from Leslie is very much like leather jacket
I don't
vibes,
do this a lot.
Not a scrapbooker vibe.
No, and she went
so
for it.
Like, it was a moment where it was like, I'm not normally one to make a scrapbook for somebody, and I love this man, and I'm going to do this for him.
And I went out of my way to try something new.
It's like me making you dinner, and you were just... And that's really devastating to think about. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, but if I was trying to break up with you, and then I came home and there was this gorgeous dinner prepared.
Yeah. You're like, oh no, she's never cooked before.
I'd be like more just scared that the dinner. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I would be right. It'd be like, now I got to sit through this dinner and like I have to eat it and tell you how much I like it while I'm waiting on the moment of destruction happening. So he had to sit there and like look through all the photos and go, remember this, and then knowing in 4 seconds he's going to break it off. Like, that is worst case scenario.
Well, then he literally stares into her eyes, removes his arm from her shoulder, and they're staring at each other, and he goes, anything else you want to tell me? And he asked that a few times, which is the
same thing she said to him because he was being weird.
Yes.
So it's like,
but then I'm like, what is I'm very curious. I would love to know what he wanted to hear from her. I'm like, does he want her
he was buying time
to break up with him? Or is he waiting because he kept saying Teresa answered all my questions. Is he waiting? And he brought up to Leslie at the dinner, like, hey, we haven't really had intimate conversation. What question? I want to know what question Gary was waiting for, because I feel like there was a specific thing we didn't see that he like wanted to hear or know something that he wasn't getting, or a question from her that he was like maybe on his checklist that she hadn't asked. Because he kept going, anything else you want to ask me? And then it was dead silent, the longest pause of my life. And then he said, be happy. And
because she was acting sad, because she was kind of like, this feels off. What's off? And he said, be happy.
And I rewound immediately because I go,
that's got to be a mistake.
No, I go, did I miss?
Yeah.
I
felt the same way. Did I miss something before? Did she say a bunch of stuff and then he said, be happy?
I blacked out. I literally had a moment because we didn't watch it
He's
live.
so bad
because
in
we
those
didn't watch it
scenarios.
live. I was like, did they edit out something?
Right.
Because I'm like, this is so
What
confusing.
a crazy. Next time you're crying, by the way, I'm just going to look at you and say, be happy.
Oh,
and see if it works.
Don't make that fatal mistake. If you ever make that.
If you're ever mad at me again, I'll just say, be happy. And then see what happens. That was a wild thing to say.
That was
he
absolutely
panicked.
wild.
He was panic mode with her.
He was panic mode. We've never
I
really
think he
seen
knew
Gary
what he did.
scramble. Yeah,
I think he knew he talked
so
way too
too.
much. He gave her way too much affirmation. He made her feel like it was a done deal. And he knew
Yeah.
that he did that. And so I think because of that, he did know what to do.
Yeah.
Because he was out of pocket. Like he didn't know what he was saying. Shit like be happy. That is a sweet sentiment. Like he was
out of pocket.
He was out of pocket. Like he was for the first time we saw him like not know what to say.
Yeah. Well, she's like, yeah, I want that for you too, like, or something.
Yeah, it's like,
and then they get up.
Be happy.
So I'm like, did they just? I was like, is that a breakup?
Well, he was like, I have to go now, or something like that, right? Didn't he say that at some point?
Yeah, he's like, I have to go. And then she's like, are you sure? Like, there's nothing you want to say? And he's like, no, I just got a big day tomorrow, or something like that, and just left. And my whole body was screaming. My body was on fire screaming because it was so brutal. And then we see him go to the hallway. Yeah. He's crying.
It flips a U-turn.
And it's like, I need to come back. And I do have to say,
I have to go now. That's literally like if you're he was like in an interview for a job and they're like, what's your experience? And he's like, I have to use the restroom.
It's the Friends episode where Joey on his resume says that he's like a professional dancer, and then in the audition,
yes,
and then they're like, okay, and go, and he just runs out.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He's like, I have to go check the meter. They're like, you did not drive here. This is a resort in Costa Rica. And he's like, right. You know, it's like he was panicking.
Absolutely. Well, he comes back, and I do have to say, you know, I'm very glad, and Leslie then says this as well, I am very glad that he ended it then.
Yes.
He should have ended it an hour beforehand, but I'm glad he ended it then. He came back, because if he wouldn't have, that would have been
way worse.
Really, really,
if
really,
she would have gone
really
to the
bad.
altar, that would have been
like she said, I had a $60,000 dress. Like, I want to walk down and then get broken up then. Thank you at least for breaking up with me.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
Here.
Agreed.
She's like, I picked out a beautiful blue dress that matches our eyes. And I'm like, what a fucking queen.
That's
that
such a
matches
romantic
our
thing to
eyes.
say.
I'm like, stop it,
Such
you
a romantic
absolute
thing to say.
wonderful queen. So basically he comes in and he ends it with her by saying, you know, had two wonderful women, but I've fallen in love with Teresa, and that's the direction I'm going to take. And then Leslie says, so everything you told me the other night was a lie. And then we have the back and forth. And he goes,
first time he's getting called out too.
Yeah,
everyone's always been like, thank you for giving me hope again.
Yeah, because he has, because that's what that's
but
season perfect.
I love her because she kind of like rose from the chill vibe to be like, I think you need to be kind of called out on this shit a little bit, to be honest with you.
That was, Leslie gave us, she served us queen shit on a platter.
Because she also said
that was queen shit.
That was queen shit. Another queen shit was when he was like, no, don't feel that way. Don't feel that way. And she's like, honestly, Gary, like, fuck off. I can feel however I want to feel.
I have
and
literal
the whole crowd's
chills.
like, whoa, because it was a little bit like, it was the be happy comment. It's almost like he doesn't like when people are sad.
And then it comes off patronizing, where you're like, hey.
It's like, I just destroyed you, and now I need you to be not so happy because it makes me feel bad. And it's like, I kind of felt that a little bit from him, where he was like, he wasn't necessarily loving the fact that he was going to have to sit in this.
No, he didn't like it. And she was like genuinely sobbing, and she's like, no, you lied. And I don't think he liked hearing that it was a lie, because he was saying, no, it was true then. Things have changed. Things have evolved. And, you know, she's asking, like, where did it go wrong? And he's doing the whole, you know, you both were so wonderful, but only one is right. I'm sorry if I've caused you pain. I never would have taken, you know, and doing all this thing. And she's just like not having it. She's like, but you lied. Like, essentially, let's go back and think that you lied. And that's,
again, this wasn't like 2 years ago. This is like just the other
she says
day.
12 hours before.
Like, that's crazy.
She's like, how do we do this in 12 hours?
12 hours.
And then she has the moment where she's like, that's my typical life. And that's then when you were saying, where he's like, no, I don't want to see that that uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable to see you uncomfortable. And that's the iconic line. No offense, Gary. I can think whatever the fuck I want.
Love that.
And it was everything.
It's so true.
Because it was like, no, this is now, you said this to her. This is now her moment to have her moment for however long she needs to have her moment. Doesn't matter what you think. You just ended things with her, so it really doesn't matter what you think.
No.
This is not a partnership anymore.
And also, you can't be the bearer of bad news and then be the person to say, don't sweat it.
Yeah, to kind of control, to try to control. Like you said, the audience absolutely loved it. And she's devastated. And it is so hard to watch because like she said, she's like, my heart's broken again. And now I have to do it in front of the entire world. You made it sound like you were going to choose me. You said things to me. You led me down a path and then you took a turn and you left me there.
Whoa. That's exactly what it was too.
Yeah. Yeah. And at this point, he's in shock, it seems like. At this then point, it's the panic sets in. And he's like, I'm sorry. I wish there was something I could say, but I know there's not. At the end of the day, she says that I want you to be happy. And I thought it was going to be me. I'm not going to say anything negative about Teresa. She's a great girl, which again, this is just such a Leslie moment where there was no like, that other woman. She was like, Leslie's an amazing girl. I want you to be happy. That's not the issue. And when then we see, and of course then Gary has the meltdown with Jesse Palmer, the clips that we've seen over and over again where he was like, I fucked over a good person. I'll never be able to get this out of my head. He definitely felt the weight of it. And that's the thing. And I felt like afterwards and then also in this live, then when he sat with Leslie, it was like one of those moments where I'll say it over and over again. I love Gary and I'm so happy for him and Teresa. Like I really am. But it was a moment where you're like, yeah, you felt the repercussions of really hurting somebody. You know? Yeah. It just like, it was like the repercussions.
You got to deal with it. And
of hurting someone's heart.
Because he admitted it. Yeah. Like I got caught up in the whirlwind. Like he admitted to kind of getting caught up in the whole thing. Yeah. And so I think that's huge because it's like.
Well, and he admitted that
like
and he
things
included.
Things did change, but I also think that you didn't like guard the emotional side of yourself. You needed to be
a little more.
Of a heart guardian.
The thing
Gary
about
needed to call on the heart guardian. Dude.
You know, he needed to call on the heart guardians of yore.
He was a little loose with the heart guards.
Maybe Zach could have given him some tips and pointers.
Because he was loose and fast. He had no shield on and he was just rocking around.
And you know how we feel about a heart guardian. It's too much. But we got to find a balance here. And I think Gary went on the opposite side of the heart guardian and there was no protection of the heart. So we got to find a nice middle ground here, gentlemen. A nice middle ground between, heart guardian and what Gary did.
I agree.
Because when he said that, like what you brought up, where he said that he got caught up.
Yeah.
When he was talking to Leslie, he was like, I got caught up with numerous of the women. Yes. And he said Faith and Ellen, and they shot to Faith and Ellen. And did you see Ellen's face? Massive eye roll. Shook her head. The women of the Golden.
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah. The women of the Golden Bachelor, and Joan then was holding both the hands of Faith and Ellen, almost like it's okay, ladies, we got it. The women of the Golden Bachelor, there was chit chat going on.
It's like this guy the whole time tells you what you want to hear.
They had different thoughts post the tell all in this moment.
Well, I kind of feel that way. I kind of feel like great guy, but I also do feel like he was irresponsible with how he spoke to them.
Right.
Like he gave them what they wanted to hear, which was, you're amazing, you're incredible. Like because I do think that
But I also think, I don't think he gave everybody that.
No, but
I think he really listened to everybody, but I think he got caught up.
And I think that's one of those things that he did feel it in the moment. But I think it's important now. I mean, listen, I've never dated 30 women at once, so there's also that, right? Sure. This is new. He's also new to dating and new to dating 30 women at once, where he probably was just in the beginning, especially with a couple of them, like, really not realizing that his words carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And that so that's kind of the lesson learned.
Especially when you're dealing with people who, as himself, he's having to process through all this grief. Yeah. And I can't imagine being in that situation. But then you're also with a lot of other women who are also processing grief and different forms 100%. Of grief. And so you have to be extra careful, I think.
And I felt like
Jenna always, okay, so Jenna from Date Card Pod,
Yeah.
she always says one of my most favorite things. She's always like, it's the campsite rule with relationships. You want to leave when a relationship ends, that's fine. People break up, it doesn't work
Yeah.
out, whatever. But you want to leave the campsite better than how you found it.
Yeah.
So you want to be in a situation where you leave that person better than how you found them, which I love. Like
Yeah.
that's a way to like, and of course there's going to be hurt and pain, but it's more like from your position,
Right.
like taking care of somebody's
Sure.
heart, being like, okay, I'm going to do my best
It's rare.
to do that. It is very rare.
But I thought that Leslie held her ground on multiple occasions, and then when they were on the couch,
Yeah.
and he hits her with the like, "Oh, I got caught up in the whirlwind, and I did." You could tell that she wasn't loving that answer, and
No.
because it was like, "Wait a second, you're kind of like blaming it on the show almost or something." Like that you kind of got caught up in the craziness of the whole thing, and I'm not really good at this whole dating thing with 30.
Right.
And then she kind of said like, "I don't accept your apology, but like I hear it," or something
Okay,
like
first
that.
of all, when after he finished and she said, I don't accept your apology.
It was like, whoa.
I have to tell you. So I was with Ember, and Ember was, working on some schoolwork work pages, and she popped in at that point and heard Leslie say that. That started actually a very powerful conversation with our daughter. Because she's like, wait, what happened?
Why wouldn't she accept the apology?
He asked for forgiveness, and she said, I'm not going to accept the apology. Like, why did she say that? And it started in a fantastic conversation with Ember, and I said, thank you, Leslie, for that. It was a powerful moment.
Like you don't have to accept every apology.
I loved that.
Yeah.
That it was like, I hear you, I understand you, but like, no. Because the fact of the matter is, what you're saying, I fully resonated with, where I felt like she was frustrated with how he was wording it, because now granted, I'm sure there are parts of it that have to do with editing in the show and the show pushing him to hold on to certain people or do certain things. And, I've never been in that position. So like full credit to him in that way. Like I can't imagine that stress, but she kept standing by the fact that she said, and it was almost like he wasn't really hearing her, that she kept standing by the fact that she said, it's not that you said you loved me. It's not that you picked Teresa. It's none of those things. I'm happy for you. I'm so glad you told me that you loved me. It was what you said in the fantasy suite afterwards. And she even said, she goes, I'm not going to break that confidence.
Which sounds like he doubled and tripled down.
Yeah.
Basically.
And she's like, I'm not going to break that confidence, and I'm not going to say what you said. I'll always keep that private. But you said things to me that made me 100% confident that you would pick me. So I don't doubt, that maybe in the fantasy suite, he said, I'm choosing you.
Yeah.
Like maybe he directly said to her, like, you will be my choice.
We even saw "you're the one" is
Yes.
just insane. No one's ever said that on the show.
So that was the big thing where I felt like then she was in that hot seat with him, feeling frustrated, where it's like, Gary, like
You locked this down.
Because then he kept kind of saying, and he was kind of putting his foot in his mouth, where
Yeah.
he was just like, there were two wonderful women, and like, but like
one was way better. One was definitely better. No,
he
I
goes,
mean,
and
he
then
definitely
he's
got
like, and there were two wonderful women, but only one was the right one. And she's like, I hear you, and that's not what my problem
Right.
is. My problem isn't that you ended up finding the right person for you. It's that you essentially told me I was the right person, and then you bailed.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's the issue.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was like, watching it was brutal.
And then I think also the reason why he didn't get his apology accepted was because he wasn't like apologizing exactly for what he did.
Exactly.
It was like, I am sorry that I got caught up in all this.
Exactly.
But he wasn't apologizing for like, I fucked up. I shouldn't have told you all that stuff until it was done. I should have waited. I should have told you how I felt, but held back, knowing that there still is a possibility we might not work out. But we kind of blamed it on like, I got caught up in the whirlwind and it meant it at the time, but then that changed. And I'm like, that's not really apologizing for what you did. It's it's kind of like apologizing for the show or something.
And I think if he would have sat down and been, sorry you guys, this cricket is rip roaring. Imagine it's a campfire. But if he would have sat down and after Leslie said those things, because by the way that she navigated that was incredible. When she right away said, there are so many reasons why I love you. The way that your eyes sparkled when you looked at me, the crinkle in your nose, but more than anything, your integrity. Oof. And it's because you are a man of integrity, which is why this hurts so bad. Because you are a man of integrity, I took your words for truth. Yeah. And I felt like the way she handled that situation was so masterful, and the way that she was like, I don't hate you. I am so distraught because you are a man of integrity.
This doesn't match your character.
Yes, and it's not like, and she didn't call him out by saying you're a liar, you're not a man of integrity, or you're not a man of integrity. She said you are a man of integrity. You are a man of integrity, but in this moment you didn't walk in integrity.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a really important sentiment walking away with. Like, I think Gary is a man of integrity. I think he's a really good guy, and I think that we saw that, and we all are human and make mistakes. Yeah. But in this moment, I feel like if he would have looked at her and been like, you are so right. I said things to you that were lies, and I have nothing that I can say. Like, it was a mistake, and what I did was wrong. And I did say things that I did not follow through on and were not true. And I changed my mind. And that was really wrong.
And that's the more intense one. Like, let's say that's not even true. Let's say things did change and he did feel that way.
Yeah.
I think he should have, let's say what he did say was true. I think what he should have said is, I shouldn't have said those things, knowing that we weren't done yet.
It's very true.
That is not okay.
There's two
Even if I
left.
felt them in the moment, I should have been aware enough to know things could change, and that I can't give you assurances. That's like signing. That's like saying there's a deal without signing the paperwork.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not until it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
So you can kind of handshake at dinner, but like until the contracts are signed, you can't say it's done.
Yeah.
So then if last minute something changes and you don't sign the contract, that person goes, you screwed me.
Yeah.
And you're kind of, well, we know how it is. Life is crazy.
And the thing
it's
is,
like,
in business, when you do handshake deals, when you've gone back and forth, like, and then all of a sudden you pull last minute and go, never mind, like that is very frowned upon in business.
Well, it's like technically it's not illegal, but it's like very damaging and hurtful to people and fucks people over. So that's kind of the thing, you know?
No, you're right. And I think it would have been very different if he would have done that. Now, what I was really curious about too is, so this Hollywood Reporter article came out about Gary, and the timing of this is what boggled my mind.
Right.
This came out a day before the finale. Nothing negative has come out about Gary. It's been all quiet. And then the day before the finale, this comes out. And then like 2 hours later, there's a rebuttal article that comes out. And so a lot of people were theorizing, like, you know, did the show allow this article to drop to drum up ratings? I thought maybe, but now I don't think so, because they didn't address it. I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts.
I would think it would be the opposite way.
Yeah.
That the writer timed it, knowing that the show was going to have the finale.
Yeah, potentially.
Like
but
a
I'm
way
just
to
saying,
get clicks on the article, right? It's like, oh, I know I'm gonna time. It's like why people time up political things. It's like, oh, the election's coming or something. It's like the article goes right there, you know?
Yeah, who knows? But so the timing of this article was wild. And I will say this, the opinions of this finale, of this article, but specifically this article, what I've observed online are extremely split in half.
Really?
Some people were like, this article is super overblown. They're making drama out of nothing. And some people were like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I don't like him anymore. Like, I'm so curious to hear what everyone's opinion is, all the family, like in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts were on the article, because I very much had a lot of mixed feelings. I'm still kind of processing it. I had mixed feelings about different things. I felt like part of the article, I was like, hey, like, you know, whatever, like, don't be shaming him for like job situation and, you know, who knows with the show and production, like, you know, Frankenbit or whatever. But then there's the other part where like if some of these alleged things are happening, it's just like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about everything. So I'm still processing it. So family, let us know what your thoughts are after you've read the article. But the timing of it, what I got stuck on. And I was like, I wonder how much the timing of this article affected the feelings of people during the show and after. I wasn't sure if Jesse Palmer was going to bring it up and they were going to address it at any point, because it was so massive. When I've seen him do now interviews since, like,
they bring it up and it's a thing.
Everybody's bringing it up. And then also the women, his ex-girlfriends sitting there of the Golden Bachelor, and they looked unhappy. Like, I'm wondering if the article
Took the
like
sheen off the shine
a little bit.
with
Yeah,
him.
I'm very curious.
I think so.
Or if it was like, okay, everything that happened with Leslie is what did it. Like, I don't know.
It's probably a mix of a couple things.
It
It's probably
felt like-
all of it. It's probably we weren't ready to see Leslie be that devastated.
Yeah.
And kind of realize how much he built her up. And we're also not with this article thing. We're like, no one was expecting any negativity or anything come out about him.
Yeah.
So I think it's like it's kind of taking the hero off a little bit, the hero shine off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then and then the fact that you're like having to celebrate love 2 seconds after the most devastated person we might have ever seen on the show.
Yeah.
It's definitely like
It was
those
a lot.
all things don't help towards when they come out together, everyone feeling as you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, let us know in the comments. I'm curious if you felt like, oh, bummed out in part, or like a more of a heaviness in this, like if it came like simply from what went down in the show, or if you were like, I'm also thinking about then this article, like again, because like I said, it was fully split. Like some people were just like, oh my gosh, this article was absolutely like blown out of proportion, and some people were like, I can't look at Gary the same. Anywho, that was wild. And they did not announce that Leslie's the next Golden Bachelorette, which is really upsetting to me because I was really hoping they were going to.
They haven't even announced that
That we're going to have a Golden Bachelorette.
They just keep saying, do you have someone older in your life that wants love?
I know.
Submit them here. So I don't know why they would do double Bachelor in a row, but they have not specified.
I think like Jenna from Date Card Pod had said to me, I think it's a lot easier to find amazing, fabulous 60 and 70-year-old women than a ton of fabulous 60, 70-year-old men.
You're absolutely right.
That was Jenna who said from Date Card Pod. Yeah. I was like, when she said that, I was like,
because there's a lot of like women who I feel like we know, or like, friends of moms and things like that, where you're like, they're amazing.
Incredible.
And then not so many guys. Not so many single like 60-year-old men that are
who
awesome.
are awesome. Uh-huh.
Like honestly, it's actually kind of true. Like I don't think I know one. Like my uncles, like not amazing. You know what I mean? It's like
not going to be the top of the list.
Okay.
But we'll see. I think everyone really wanted a Golden Bachelorette announcement and for it to be Leslie.
But let's be real, to find like 30 60-year-old men who are single and amazing.
And if Leslie is the Bachelorette, like I want her to like have like cream of the crop.
Right.
Like I want her to have like the best men as an option.
Yeah. Wow, it's true.
But I think that if they do Golden Bachelor, I do like the idea of them having someone like Faith or Leslie who is a divorcee this time, because we had a widower, and it'd be nice then to see like the story of someone who's been divorced.
Agreed.
I think that would be a different angle. But yes, then we see Gary and his proposal to Teresa. She looked absolutely stunning. She looked beautiful in her dress, and she came down and all the confidence in the world, really. I have to say that about Teresa. Like even though she really was actually questioning, like, is it me or Leslie? I don't think she knew for sure. Versus Leslie was like, I know for sure.
Yes.
Teresa didn't, but Teresa had all the confidence in the world.
And even when he kind of made her seem like he was going to break up with her, for that little pause, she didn't like freak.
No.
Did you notice that? That was like shocking. She kind of sat there and she went like, okay.
I was taking note of it
like,
because Gary, he's like, oh, Teresa is very logical. And I guess whenever I thought about Teresa, I was kind of like, Teresa reminds me of kind of this like floating fairy who's like, whoops, what did I say?
Right.
But when I think about her now, I'm like, you know what? She always is logical.
Yes.
Like we've never seen her cry. She doesn't ever cry.
No.
She is always kind of like, well, if he gets rid of me, it is what it is. And then when she'd be like, well, Kathy said that I should zip it. Like she was always very just blunt.
The only time she cried was the Kathy thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Well, I heard
She
my
didn't
friend
cry.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, not overly emotional in the process.
No. She was very logical. And so I think they
She'd get
match
like
each other in
nervous
that way.
and like anxious, but that's also like a very logical person who's experiencing emotion. They get like kind of anxious and like on edge, but not the like bawling, kind of thing.
Yeah, it was. All of a sudden when that hit me, I was like, oh my gosh. And then we find out too that she has never, when Billy proposed, he didn't have a ring. He didn't get down on one knee.
So this was her first experience.
It was going to be her first moment. And it was very sweet when Gary was like, I'm waiting for the moment of calm when I see Teresa's face. And he kept talking about that he's so happy to find an equal partner, someone to share joy and sorrow. And I think he really wants that companionship in the loss of a spouse.
Yes. Like she knows all the things.
Yeah. Well, he starts to propose and he does that pause where he's like, you're not the right person for me to live with. Long pause.
Yeah.
You're the person I can't live without. And everyone's like, how dare you? And I have to say, watching him sobbing, watch the proposal was melting me.
Yes.
Like, granted, I was a little shaken post everything, but it kind of shook me out then where I was like, okay, him watching that proposal, it was like, this is the person that he's supposed to be with.
Agreed.
He found, like he said,
it was beautiful and it's
the second love of his life.
Yeah.
And, again, it's a shame that he said those things to Leslie, so it had to be like dampened then by that. But, these two, they're beautiful together. Yeah. They love each other so much. And he gives her the golden rose. The family comes out. They're celebrating. They're talking about how like the world thinks that love is for the young. Yeah. But like, no, this is their chance to start a whole new life, which I feel is quite beautiful. And I feel like that's the impact of this show.
Yes.
I think that's why everyone loves this show so much. Is that it is such a powerful, it's a beautiful sentiment.
It's a darling sentiment.
But it is so powerful to be like, you can always start over. Like it doesn't have to end at a certain age. Like it can begin again at a certain age. And you can start your life and experience new feelings and loves and joys that you never had before at any age. It's really never too late. And I love, Teresa said that. She's like, even if it's your last day, if you have someone you love, like tell them that you're in love with them on that last day. Like never go a minute without that. And when Teresa and Gary come out, JP, by the way, says, let me see that ring. It's a sparkler. And he calls her ring a sparkler, which I believe is Game of Roses lingo.
Stop.
And I feel like JP has let numerous times some Game of Roses lingo slip from his lips. That man is a massive Gore fan. Like I'm there is no way that JP is not a Game of Roses stan. He loves Clues. He loves Pace Case. Like, please.
Wow.
Calling it a sparkler, like that's Game of Roses lingo.
That is Game of Roses lingo.
Come on now. Like that was a moment where I was like, and he refers to it as like a hooju.
He does?
Yeah, he said it before, I believe.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, congrats, you guys.
They're out here really doing the damn thing. We find out that Teresa says that her grandsons kept the secret the whole time and she didn't tell her sisters. So she's like, surprise.
My God.
That's wild.
That is wild.
If I was her sister, I'd be like, what the hell?
That is wild.
You're going to tell the kids, the grandkids?
Who could totally leak it? Probably way worse than the
sisters.
Than the sisters. Maybe she knows her sisters are chatties, you know? And then you're like, all right. Like,
and then you're going to tell the grandbabies?
Yeah,
I was like, what in the world?
She's like, I can't trust my sisters. They'll leak that shit.
And maybe the grandbaby saw her and they're like, is he going to be our new granddaddy?
Right.
Because they were like, we loved
Plus,
him.
they're like 4, they don't have a Instagram.
I'm sorry. When Ember was 4, she goes to pre-K.
That's
she's
true.
delivering the news. It's a
Dude,
tell-all.
You could never tell Ember any of that stuff.
She
would tell
straight to the
everyone.
school and she's writing up a newspaper article and passing it out to people.
100%.
Like, extra, my grandma's engaged to the Golden Bachelor. Like, I mean, we're
Ember
done.
would have ruined the whole thing.
We're done. But that's then when they have the knocked his boots off conversation. He tells Jesse, because Jesse's like, okay, what happened on that overnight date that changed everything? And Gary put him in his place again. He's like, how often do you ask your parents this, JP?
Right.
But, he says there were the comments, the revelations, her enthusiasm, her adventurous side. Again, didn't have to ask any questions. She answered them all.
Yeah.
And then she said that it was that she was a good kisser. And we then get a preview for Joey's season that's airing January 22nd, Joey Mania. I'm excited, by the way, for Joey's season because I think, sorry, Zach, no offense, but I think that I think this is a Bachelor that the women are probably going to be really excited to find out that it's the Bachelor.
He's like calm and mysterious and cool, which is just not the vibe lately.
He's just like the guy. He's the guy.
It's just like that's been our energy lately. Now we're gonna get like, hey, how you doing? Like a little more smooth.
Well, everyone like had a crush on Joey. Sure. It was like he's the hot tennis pro.
The hot guy, yeah.
He's sensitive. He's smooth. He's all the things. And everyone was like, oh, I would love for him to be a Bachelor. And then he became the Bachelor. Whereas in before, people were kind of like, wait, who's going to be the Bachelor?
Yeah.
Like, and everyone was kind of surprised. So I think.
But I love how they created like a Beatlemania for him in that restaurant or whatever.
Yeah,
and he's just like, guys,
they called it Joey Mania.
Yeah, and he's just like, I'm a regular guy. like he's so famous that it's like, yeah, I know it's crazy, but I'm just a regular guy, man, just looking for love. Like he just can't go anywhere. But it also made me laugh. Well, it not made me laugh. It was interesting though, the preview where it was like, he's like, I'm falling in love with people, but I'm not sure if they're falling in love with me. Which is like, that might be an interesting new dynamic that we haven't seen.
Interesting. That's true. I think he's going to be a great Bachelor. I'm really excited. I think that he's going to make some massive mistakes. Sorry, but I do think there's going to be some.
Love it.
I think there's going to be some Pete moments.
Yes.
So now we can call it Gary moments. Who knows?
Exactly.
But then we end up finding out what the big surprise is that they've been telling us about. As JP announces that their oldest couple, which was very cute.
Yes.
Of Bachelor Nation, they're gifting them of an Italian vacation, and they can use it as their honeymoon trip because they are getting married on January 4th on television. Okay. I saw people being like, this isn't a big announcement. I'm like, this is a huge announcement. In my opinion, this actually is a huge announcement. We haven't had a Bachelor, like a proper Bachelor wedding special in years. And there's only been a couple of them in years. And on top of that, we normally used to have to wait at least like a year or two for the Bachelor wedding. These lovebirds got engaged a couple months ago, and they're like,
it's dog years. They're like, what's 7 years into one? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like it's time for us to get married. Like we don't know how long we have, so we're gonna get married January 4th. We're getting the wedding. I'm very excited.
That is gonna be fun.
I am very much looking forward to, that they're gonna have all the Golden Bachelor women there.
They're gonna have all sorts of people there.
Susan's gonna be there with Kathy. They're gonna be doing great interviews.
Is it live?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think it's live.
Yeah.
I think it's
That'll
live.
That'll be interesting.
That'll be wild.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely talk about that.
Of course.
I thought it was a huge announcement.
Yeah. I thought so too. I thought at first that the Italy was the announcement, and I was
Me too.
so pissed. I was like, really? They're going to Sandals for a week, and you're like, that's the announcement?
It's like, and everybody in the audience gets $10 off coupon.
At Chipotle. It's like, that's because they've done that kind of shit before.
I know.
Where they're like, nothing we've ever done before, $20 to Chipotle.
It's a free glass of champagne.
Yeah, whoa! It's just like, oh. So this, I think this will be fun. I mean, even if it sucks, it's like it'll be an interesting thing to try.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see like if we're gonna get. I bet what we'll get beforehand is like footage of like the wedding planning process, like them choosing the venue. I think it's gonna be cute. I'm excited.
Yeah,
and they've done a bunch of post interviews together since, and they seem so in love.
Yes,
they seem like very much on the same page.
I wonder how many of the ladies will be there.
There's gonna be so many.
You think
100% Kathy and Susan will be there.
Yeah,
which makes me laugh.
Like Faith and Ellen,
they might like make them go, which is so awkward.
Well, I was thinking, do you think Leslie will have to go?
Oh my god, I feel like they won't do that to her. I don't feel like they'll do that to her. That would be like so.
They just shoot to the audience. People are crying. Like
you're like
sadness.
No.
You're like, oh.
But I think definitely like Kathy and Susan, because the whole Kathy thing has made me laugh the entire time thinking about this, because Kathy said from the beginning it's going to be Teresa.
Yeah.
She said day one. Yeah. Kathy is a psychic, number one. She knew.
Yeah.
So then she wasn't having it with Teresa being like,
who, me?
Or just being like, oh no, we are going to be together forever. And Kathy's like, let us have a chance here.
Right.
Turns out it was Teresa.
She was right.
She was always right, Kathy.
She was right.
Well,
wow.
Family. That's
it.
That was a very different finale than I thought it was going to be.
But I had a blast with this season. I had a blast.
Just because the end of this ended up making us feel all sorts of ways.
But I kind of liked it because it created like a moment of like, ooh, and now we have like
drama.
A feel about it, as opposed to it just went off without a hitch.
No, it was drama.
Like, okay, cool, but we felt something.
It was real.
Now we have an opinion.
Now we have an opinion. It was reality. Yeah. It was real. We love Gary. Is he Jesus? Is he Santa Claus? No, but we love him. And we have a beautiful wedding from it. Yes. We have a Leslie, who we absolutely adore, who we hope is our next Golden Bachelorette. This was such a phenomenal season.
Yes.
I enjoyed every second of it. And it just like, I'm so happy that then the ratings were explosive. It was like the biggest finale ratings they've had in years.
Really?
And that just is like, okay, ABC, we loved what you did here.
Yes.
Please give us more.
I love it.
Because we loved it. And again, minus this final episode, not lots of drama. And we loved it anyway.
Yes.
So, anywho.
Loved it.
We love you all.
We love you guys.
We'll talk to you on Thursday morning
Yes.
about the Bachelor in Paradise
Yes.
episode. I know it was an hour-long one, but I got a lot of opinions about it. And send us your call homes.
Yes. Send us your call homes. We'll talk
And we'll
about
do
it.
that. And we love you all. See you on
Bye.
Thursday. Bye.